So, hi, everyone who is watching with us. I'm so excited to bring you LindaWilks today and to allow you to get to know someone who is living in a space that maybe you've never heard of. And I hadn't heard of it except for maybe in passing before meeting you. I've never met somebody who was a walk in soul that I'm aware of, right? And so, without further ado, this is Linda Wilks, who is a walk-in soul and has a book, which we'll get into later. But Linda, welcome to the show and welcome to everybody. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So, can you explain for those who are watching what in the world is a walk-in soul?
A walk-in soul is a soul that enters a human body when a body is at death's door or has had a very profound, deep, traumatic, emotional situation, or if a person who has had a devastating illness and a walk-in soul enters that body because the old soul no longer can maintain the health of the physical body, or the walk-in soul needs that body to carry out a higher agenda for the planet Earth.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're alluding a little bit here that you were either having a near-death experience, like your body was letting go, or you were under severe trauma. Could you explain to people like what was happening a little bit before you had the walk-in soul, that you needed a walk-in soul?
Yeah, well, I had a devastating illness. I was diagnosed with MS, and I could not really care for myself. And my body was in a very devastating condition. And I was in a nursing home. And there was an occurrence at that time where the walk-in soul came into my soul and gave me life again. And the thing about it is that when a walk-in soul comes into a human body, the framework, as far as the characteristics and that particular individual's, the energy that they emanate on the planet, whether they care about the planetary system and humans and things of this nature, a walk-in soul will come in and save that physical body so that it can continue the work.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like the walk-in soul takes what you've already created and decides to amplify it.
Exactly.
Is that right? Okay. And so your body was devastated before this. And I really want, I'm going to keep saying about your book because I really want people to read your whole story about what you went through. But you shared with me before, your body was devastated before this happened. And so what was that devastation like, and how are you now?
Well, the devastation was extremely overwhelming because I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair and I was hospitalized quite often. It seems like I was in the hospital every couple of months. And my body was just devastated. I couldn't really care for myself. And I had gone through this procedure with these hospitals where they would give me 500 milligrams of intravenous steroids just to kind of keep me alive. And they would give it to me every 8 hours. And so over time, your body begins to deteriorate. And so I was in a very bad condition to the point that the doctors, my neurologist, and I had the best, they could no longer, there's nothing else they could do for me. And so they decided that the best thing for me was to just go into a nursing home and stay there. And as I was there, I really couldn't do anything for myself. I couldn't even turn my body over. But today, after the walk-in soul, in fact, it wasn't too long after that walk-in soul occurred while I was in the nursing home that I was able to really begin to move forward as far as caring for myself. And over time, didn't take too much longer that I was able to just walk and run 2 or 3 miles. So I'm here and I have all the functionings of my body and I'm in good health. And it's all because of the walking soul. It gave me a new life.
Well, and I can attest to being in person with you. You float, you strut, you you emanate everywhere that you go. And so you have taken in, maybe over time, that this walk-in soul has given you a new lease on life. And the fact that you're walking, that you can move, that you're no longer in excruciating pain is a testament enough. And yet it's not just that. Like, this walk-in soul seems to have opened up your passion and mission for life. Is that true?
That's very true.
And could you go into that? Like, what were those kind of changes that happened? So not the body changes, but the spirit, passion, mission changes that happened after this walk-in soul came in.
Well, some of the changes occurred because I'll say some of the changes that had occurred was that my attachment to other people, I was very detached to those who I had known for years, friends, family, people that I had loved and had profound, deep relationships with. I no longer had those. It was as if when I would see them, the relationship began at that point. Now that was after the walk-in.
Okay, so the detachment happened as the walk-in soul came in.
Yes.
Not, you weren't detached from them before that.
Never. No.
Okay.
I was always loving the people that I was around.
Okay.
Like they were new to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationship began at that point. And however our relationship blossomed or grew, that is the way that those relationships were maintained. Also, many synchronistic events occurred. I met a gentleman, and he wanted me to join Amnesty International. It's a global human rights organization. And I was like, oh, no, I don't volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And I had always said that I wouldn't because I had always worked for the Department of Human Services for the city of Chicago, and I had given so much of myself. I was like, oh, no, I'd never do it. But he convinced me to just come to one meeting. And when I went to that meeting, it was like it was a fit, like hand in glove. I was amazed. And I never missed the meeting. This has been for years. And I love it. And that particular organization propelled me into another global organization where I'm very active. And so all of a sudden, I just became so concerned, and I had such a deep passion for this planet, the waterways, the forestry, everything, the humans, all life force. It was just, I was overwhelmed with this love and like you said, passion, for it. And I move forward toward those goals to save these particular things any way I can.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you seem to be very connected to the consciousness of the earth, and almost as though it came and asked you to be its advocate. Would that sound right?
Yeah, it seems exactly like that because I am. And also, I don't like to use the word channel,
Mm-hmm.
but I get a lot of information from higher realms. And the information that comes through has taught me quite a bit about this planetary system and how this particular system that we live in, the Milky Way galaxy, and how it affects other galaxies and other universes, and what we as light workers need to do to move forward to help save this planet. Saving planet Earth will help save other systems. Information that I received regarding that the atomic bomb in the 40s that went off, it did a lot of damage to other systems. And this is why even today we have different different, I'll say, beings from other
Mhm.
planetary systems that are watching over this planet to ensure that we do not use nuclear warfare because it would do much damage to other systems. And
Mhm.
so I think this is why we are seeing so many UFOs all around, everywhere around the planet, because this planet is a beautiful planet. And the way it is seen from other planetary systems, that it is beautiful. It's
Mhm.
beautiful and it has the beautiful blue waterways, green forestries, and there are those in higher dimensions that want to see this beautiful planet ascend and be saved.
Mhm. Mhm. When you go into this, like, there's such a heart-centeredness about remembering that we're connected to so many other dimensions and universes and beings and life force and life, life itself. um i I wonder if that's also just one of your, like, the whisper that you put out to the world. Remember, you're not alone. Like, we're not alone, and yet we need to rise up ourselves. Like, not just the light workers, but who else? Who else that is a hidden light worker, maybe, that needs to rise up in order to take care and nurture us so we can nurture the whole, like, the everything. um it just seems like you've got such a vast message. Most of the messages are about us down here, like on our earth. And not that yours isn't, but it's like, remember, you're part of something bigger. Does that sound like your truth?
Yeah, it is my truth, and I am compelled to get this information out because there are light workers all across the planet, and they're also walk in souls, but they're
Mhm.
not aware that they're walk in souls and they're not honoring that duty. And so that's why I wrote the book. So
Mhm.
that people will look at some of the information in here and say, well, maybe this is what happened to me, because all of the variables that impacted Linda have impacted me, and I can look back and say, well, I've really changed. Well, let me get on my mission. Let me
Mhm.
appreciate the fact that I've been given a second chance at life, and let me do something of value because I am here to do that.
Well, that alone, like, I wonder how many people out there are suffering, right? Like, who are suffering with their family and their friends, and their family and friends are upset with them because they're detached, they're acting odd, and they're warring against themselves instead of doing what you did, where you got behind it and you said, something's happening. I need to investigate. What is this something that is happening to me? How did you find out that you were a walk-in soul first?
Well,
How did you know that?
Well, I didn't know it at first, but I
Okay.
something had happened to me in the nursing home that was very unusual, and I had never had anything like this to ever happen before. Never heard of it, never read about it. And there's a gentleman that I know, and he's a historian, and he studies different cultures, and he's a doctor, but his doctorate degree, and he and his wife are both, and so they study different cultures, they go to different countries, and they were my friends. And I one day I decided, let me just tell this person what happened to me while I was inside a nursing home, because I didn't talk about it because I thought people would say, oh, she's nuts, oh my God. But he said this immediately. He said, Linda, let me tell you what happened to you. You were given a second opportunity at life. You were given a walk-in soul. He said, let me tell you about a walk-in soul. And he began to tell me these particular historical events that had happened. And I was stunned. And I still didn't want to talk about it. But over time, information would just flow to me and come to me about the soul. And so I began to put the pieces together. And then eventually, I accepted it
Mhm.
because I saw my own changes.
Mhm. And so it takes having your eyes open. it's okay to resist or, suffer, I guess, for a little bit. I think that many people might suffer with that change, but I hear the message that you want to get out to people. Please read my book so that you don't suffer so long and that you can find that you are this and that you're a resource. Do you currently work with anyone, or are you open to working with people who think that they might be a walk-in soul?
I'm definitely open to working with people who believe that they are, because there are so many walk-in souls on the planet now because it's necessary. It's
Hmm.
very necessary with this planet ascending into a higher dimensional frequency.
Hmm. Yeah, awesome. And then so you also mentioned light workers. Do you work with a lot of light workers in order to clarify what their steps should be so that they can help the advancement
Yes,
of?
yes,
Okay.
I do. I work with a lot of people that know how to operate within the light, and this is their duty, and this is why they're here on this planet. So therefore, a lot of individuals really don't know what to do to raise their frequency and vibration, because once a human raises their frequency, then that frequency of a higher vibration, it radiates outward to those, we have this huge auric field, and the more spiritual you are, the larger it is, and it overlaps with those that you just walk past, and you learn that, light workers, many know how to do this. It's a natural tendency, but some don't, because there are light workers that walk around and they are restricted with their energy. They like hold their energy in when they walk past another person. And my higher self told me that I was doing that same thing when I was on a track. I was walking one day, and they said, you hold your energy in as you walk past people. You have
Hmm.
to cease doing that and learn to relax and radiate your energy out. And so I started to, and I practiced it, and I began to radiate the energy out, because every frequency changes the frequency of other frequencies that are of a lower vibration.
Hmm. And it's just a kindness, right? I mean, I know you're talking frequency, and for those people out there who don't understand frequency, it's like letting somebody smile near you. You can't help but feel a little bit of joy or smile, right? Like it just softens so much. And so I love the fact that you are that you help people to become that so that they're not pulling it in like they're walking around afraid all the time. No, you can't have it, right? I mean, you can't have any of me. Like you're going to drain me. We're infinite. We're infinite. So there is, to me, there's no draining. Is that what you know? Is that like you're just not drained? If you're of your light and of the light, you can't be drained. You can give it away as much as you want.
Right.
Everybody can have some.
Because we are light beings. We're just bundles of energy. Everything that is material, even humans, we're just bundles of energy. And this is why it is so important for us to impact our own mind, body, and spirit.
Hmm.
And what I do is this. When I have clients, I help them to tap into the essence of their soul and expand their awareness and begin to see their soul as much bigger than what they've been told. The soul is so huge, it goes into infinity. And so once we expand our awareness, the frequency, it's like our soul is just it's so filled with power and energy. It rises up because we've given it attention and we've given it love. And so therefore that helps raise the vibrations even in the physical body down to the cells, the atoms. Everything is frequency, and it raises it up. And then when you put high frequency food in your body intentionally,
Hmm.
eliminating chemicals, no GMO, and all that, it helps raise the vibration even further. Then when you put certain things in your mind, by mastering your mind and expanding your own awareness as to who you are, and studying yourself by looking at how you think and how you feel about people, events, everything, And then you release those thoughts. If they're low vibrations like regret, all that envy and things of that nature, it's a low frequency. You got to let it go and put higher thoughts into your mind. Now you've got mind, body, spirit radiating and vibrating in a frequency that's higher. And as you radiate it out, it touches those around you. And especially if you intentionally radiate it out, which often I do, because my higher self has informed me often, if you do not go into this area or that area, who will go? And they show me, just drive through this area and just radiate it out, and we'll do the work.
Yeah.
I follow.
It is a following, isn't it? It's the willingness to be open and listen and then follow. And I'm getting that there's people on here who I don't identify with being a walk-in stole. They don't identify yet with being a light worker, but they do identify with, I don't want to have to be a walk-in soul. I don't want to destroy my body or go through pain. And so do you work with somebody who's just like, I'm curious, I'm struggling, I want to do all those things that you say, and I'm listening to all kinds of podcasts, but I've tried to eat right, I've tried to do these things, and I don't understand what you mean by high frequency foods and how to actually choose that and choose, powerful thoughts. They don't know how to. So do you work with them to be able to guide them? Because I think there's a lot of people who would want to, right? But
I do.
The journey is different from a wanting.
Yes. And I can do workshops. I provide workshops on those particular topics. A lot of people don't know because we've not been trained and we've not been taught how to raise our frequency. But there have been let's say, I'll say Nikola Tesla. He was a great physician. And he says that if you want to understand the universe, and if you want to understand humans, you must study frequency and vibrations. And so when humans understand that they are just frequency, and when you put other frequencies in your body, then it will either elevate your frequency or it will diminish it. And the more it is diminished, the more dis-ease it will become. Dis-ease, no longer at ease. So the higher our thoughts, the thoughts are so powerful. And this is another thing that's so important, especially for light workers. Our thoughts are so powerful that we can really cause change within the universe with our thinking. Because if you look around, anywhere you look, I don't care where you are right at this moment, anything that is material, it was a thought in someone's mind. And so if the thinking can create material things out into our reality, thinking can create immaterial things. It's no limit on thinking. This is a part of our innate ability to create. But most people are not paying attention to their mind, and they're allowing information to just flow in without having some type of filter to keep certain thoughts out and only allow the positive ones in. The imagination, again, that is something so potent. This is what is a God-given gift. What we imagine in our mind's eye, and we begin to see it, and we begin to put desire and love and light around that, that will become our reality. We are creator beings made in the image and the likeness of God.
Mm-hmm. And from what I get from you, your thought and your imagination and how you guide people is at a cellular level. Sorry, I'm struggling with the word, but I think that there's a lot of people who just think and it's only thought. You can tell that you get your whole body involved in what you're thinking. So you emanate from that space. And so if you emanate from a space of like imagination or thought, how do you feel like that's different than just somebody thinking, oh, I'm going to create that? Is it different? Is it
Yeah,
different or?
it's very different because a
Okay.
person who is not conscientious of their thinking, they'll let any thoughts just flow out. And once they think them, they will speak them. And everything that we speak starts in our mind as a thought. But if we begin to monitor our thoughts and our feelings and emotions, and if we become intentional thinkers, then the words that we think, they will flow through a monitor before they come out, and they will have energy that you put behind it. Whatever energy you put behind a thought, a sentence, it goes out like that. And this is why a person can think of a sentence, and there's a number of different energies and tones and feelings we can put behind it, and they will all have a different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So, once we put our own intention behind it, become a conscientious, intentional manifester, that's where our power is, because every aspect of us has a different frequency, the mind, body, and spirit. But when you speak from all of that, you've brought in some powerful energy.
Mm-hmm.
And
No,
it
I'm completely with you. It's one of the things that I've talked to my children about is what is the energy behind your words? Because as you said, you could say the same thing 5 different ways, and how it's received and what the results are from those 5 different ways, you can see, right? Like I could say I love you to somebody and they would go, no, she doesn't. Right. And then somebody else, they're melting.
Mhm.
That intention and that energy behind it is so powerful. I love that's what you bring.
Yeah, and
And,
it boils down to feelings.
mhm,
Our feelings and emotions are the creative force behind our thinking.
mhm,
The feelings, even
mhm,
with our manifestations, how we feel,
mhm.
because those feelings, they begin to blend into the words and the sentences, and people feel it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And going back to your word intention, what it makes me think about is you're intending how someone's going to receive you, but you're also intending what results will happen. Like you're intending to create something with the thought, the energy, the words that you, and there's a lack of that these days. There's a lack of intention with action, words, whatever. And you can spot a person who has intention a mile away, right? Like you can feel them. You know their intention. You know what they're intending to have happen. You know what they're asking for you to receive, whether it's good or bad. Intention could be malicious, but there's something powerful in getting all behind, right? And so I love that you're bringing that, and it sounds like this is what your walk-in soul came to do, is like, let's get all behind. So let me pull us all the way back to the beginning of our conversation where you really spoke about the earth, because you're working with people in order to raise the vibration on our earth to affect the different dimensions. What else are you doing other than working with them to affect the earth? So go a little bit more into, you said that, about waterways with Amnesty International. Can you go into like what else you do?
Well, yeah, I've worked on certain committees with the United Nations also, because I'm concerned about the fracking, because the fracking in these particular areas in certain states, and especially in America, that fracking, it damages the groundwater. The waters are being polluted. There's so many, the trees, they're being cut down. There's so many things that are happening, and especially with our waterways and the fuel that's being released into the water. I mean, the genetically modified foods. I just take a stand for all those things because it's so important. And what has happened is this: we've got new children on the planet that metaphysicians and some people that are in the spiritual arena we talk about, and we call these children the star seeds and the indigo children and the crystals. These children are different, and they came in with an agenda. And so the powers that be knew this because they have trillions of dollars to study human nature, and they do. That's how they know us. So now I noticed that over the last, I'll say 25 years, we've gotten bombarded with different chemicals in the foods and just the water, the BPA in the plastic. It leaches in when you sit a plastic bottle in the sun or leave it in your car and the sun hits it, it heats up, and then the plastic leaches BPA. That BPA affects fertility and so many other things. And so now all these chemicalized different ingredients that are in the foods, they've been released to dummy down these generations because the powers that be love control. They want to control the masses and keep the masses divided. You know, there's over 4,000 religions on the planet, and everyone thinks that theirs is the only one to get to God. And so it's so many different variables that are out here to keep humans sort of dummied down. And
separate, right? It's like separated.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. And so those are some of the things that are very important and dear to me because the planet is so beautiful. And I also, I try to help people understand exactly what third dimensional living is. And I try to inform them of the difference between third dimensional living and fifth dimensional living. And so with the difference, there are those, it's like an old radio station. And so we find that people are falling away from each other, relatives, loved ones, all type of situations, because some are in third dimension and they're stuck and they want to stay there. Then you've got your fifth dimensional people who are moving forward and they're open for change. And so it's like an old radio station. You turn the dial and third dimension is on one dial, one station, fifth dimension on another. So all you get is the static in between. So now the communications is very difficult between third and fifth dimensional beings. But this being a free will planet, people have to make a choice. But one thing that my guides have told me, the light has been placed before every human on the planet, and it is their choice to move forward.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a powerful proclamation, really, that the light has been placed before every being and it is their choice, right? It is your choice. And what is your sense that some people are afraid?
Well, I would say it would have to boil down to fear.
Okay.
People have been programmed to believe their paradigm, their thinking is third dimensional. And some people are very comfortable in that and they don't want to move out of their comfort zone. And so that is really, it's anchored in fear. And so they stay in third dimension, and some people love, there are people that just love evil and they like it. And we have a tendency to forget that there are people like that, And so when you've got these people that are evil and they find joy in it, they're going to stay in that third dimensional vibration and frequency. And there's nothing you can do, but the light's been placed in front of, like it's everyone. Right. So there's no excuse.
No. And it means everyone's invited. You just get to choose. You get to choose whether you go there or not go there. I sense that so you mentioned the people who love evil and the power that evil gives them. And then there's also that other person that you mentioned, like the person who's comfortable, maybe playing by the rules, being safe. But if there's something inside of them that's saying, go into the light or accept this invitation, whatever it looks like, because we're not walking into a light. When you stepped out as this walk-in soul, you stepped into your passion. You had to take choices, right? So
Right.
it's a very real, action-oriented, practical, and yet magical thing. So can you share some of the struggle you might have had, if you had any, moving into that space of following what you were channeled, or following the light, like following the actions that they were asking you to take so that you could walk into the light?
Well, for me, I already had the framework in me. I
Hmm.
already followed that small voice within. When I first embodied on this planet, I was a dreamer as a little girl.
Hmm.
And I had prophetic dreams. My father, he embraced that idea. He was a dreamer. And so he just helped me to interpret my dreams. And every morning he would ask me, "What did you dream?" And when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I'd be outside playing. He'd say, "Come in, and your grandmother's on the phone. Tell her what you dream." And so I thought that was just a normal thing. So I had the framework
Hmm.
already in me for a walk-in to come in and meld with.
Yeah, that's really an important thing to share with people, that you were already following your gifts,
Mm.
that those things that were coming into you, the prophecies, and sharing them with others. I truly applaud. What did you say? It was your grandfather?
No, my father.
Your father, that he supported you, because not
Mhm.
everybody has that. But I would love them to reach out to you if they feel like they have any of that going on, because you can be the person that says, I support you, and here's a way forward, and I will listen to you. And, we're going to ask some questions here, because I think everyone needs a support system in order to walk into the light, and to go from an illusion of safety into true safety,
It's true.
right? So do you feel like, this is an interesting question that's coming up inside of me, like, do you feel like you're you, even as a walk-in soul? Does that question even make sense?
Well, now I'll say that it makes sense, but I had to accept this you that you speak
Okay.
of
Okay.
because it was different. It was me, but I was, I guess, so familiar with the old soul until the new soul, it just began to demonstrate and show me
Hmm.
that it was new, and I had to eventually embrace it. It
Hmm.
took time.
Hmm.
It took time for me to embrace it. And when I finally grieved the old soul, the new soul began to really show more of itself, more, and more.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And I love the fact that you allowed yourself to grieve the old soul in order to make space for the new one to expand and to blossom. And it reminds me of something that Grant Cameron and several of those at the Metaphysical Tribe were saying, that even when we speak of paranormal and walking souls, it's an expansion of consciousness. Like, do you feel like your walk-in soul not only came in to amplify, but to expand your consciousness in a way that you couldn't do with the previous soul?
Oh, definitely, because the walking soul comes from higher dimensions.
Hmm.
And so it brings to bear a lot of knowledge, especially this one. This particular walking soul has worked on many planetary systems. And so it comes with a lot of knowledge and information that my third dimensional self would have never accessed.
Hmm.
So, yes, uh, it is different and it shows itself different. And I know it's different. Uh, I have so much information, so much knowledge that I've never studied. And I get it all every day.
Mhm.
Every day there's information just flowing into me. This is why it's important for me, like I told you, to stay focused, because information is constantly coming regarding the mind, the body, or the soul. It's all that. That's all it is. It's just telling me what's happening, how to help people. Yeah, I am into alternative healing. I don't like to say it too loud, but there are people that I help to get over specific illnesses and diseases. And often my guides, my higher self, will just tell me exactly what they need,
Mhm.
what to supplement, what to give them, what to tell them to do to overcome it. And so I'm finding, even though I know that there have been intuitive medical authors and doctors, just as there is a hypochondriac. A hypochondriac, as you know, can create scenarios in their mind and images that they begin to believe that they have a disease. And the disease shows up, the symptoms show up in their body. They'll go to the doctor will attest to the disease and then treat them. If the body is so powerful, and see, there are cosmic laws regarding opposites. If the body can create a disease, it can create great health. That's the opposite of it. It can be done. So this is where it starts. And I'm thinking, the Spirit has shown me that many of these diseases are rooted in emotional feelings, in emotions. And if a person can get over and uproot the emotions that they embody that are so dark, then the disease will have no place to remain rooted into. Also, another thing, this auric field that surrounds our body in the professional world, you know, it's called the man's personal space. This auric field is filled with electromagnetic energy. This electromagnetic energy is a frequency. It vibrates on a higher frequency and it's magnetic and it attracts. Thought forms can get into this field. Thought forms, some of your old thoughts when you walk past someone in a store and the auric fields are overlapping. There's an exchange. So therefore, the auric fields, if you look at it from an Eastern perspective, when you talk about the subtle bodies that are engaged within or encapsulated within the auric field, then what we have that is the closest subtle body is called our etheric body. It's called our body double. All of this energy that gets in here, you know, even when you're those, especially those who work in mental institutions and let's say penal institutions and hospitals and around sick people, all of that energy is in this field, and it slowly over time begins to move in closer and closer, closer and closer, until it gets into our body double, and then it goes into our physical body. That's why people need to be very aware who they're around, who they interact with, keeping this auric field cleansed, get rid of all that old stuff and put light into this body, high vibratory light into your auric field so that you will be free of dis-ease. This is why a person, just say there's a couple there and one has a devastating disease. It is not good for the other one who is healthy to always sleep with that person, because there's an exchange of all that, you know, energy.
Yeah. And so it makes sense to me that they would need time to replenish themselves, to even to remind, like, I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves that we are the light. So going back to what you were talking about, walking the track, to make sure that you're still in that space where your light is expanded, that you're still connected to source, that you're still giving. Because sometimes when we're with somebody who's ill or something, like, we literally plug into them and then that becomes our source and fills us up and in our everything, instead of us taking the time to go back and make sure that we're being that cluster of energy that you spoke of. that is constantly moving and vibrant, right? So I keep getting that you went through a process of devastation in your body into amplification with this walk-in soul coming in to guide other walk-in souls, but even more to help many who are physically, mentally, and emotionally suffering, so they don't require a walk-in soul, so they can turn that tide with choice prior, right? Like not requiring it.
Well, well,
I don't want to project that on you. It just keeps coming. I'm like, there's got to be so many people who are like, you could help me so that I don't have to.
Well, people don't have to. You
Okay.
see, a person cannot choose to be a walking soul.
Okay. Yeah.
You're chosen.
Okay.
Often the agreement is made years before.
Okay.
It could be an agreement made in a past life for this particular lifetime.
Got
One
you.
thing about it, when it comes to spiritual information and knowledge, it operates in eternal time. It doesn't operate in man-made linear time.
Sure.
So therefore, we look at time and we put these particular restrictions to have blocks of time that we can identify with. But it can be a carryover. It can be something that you made a contractual agreement to do in this lifetime, because spirit knows all things. Everything is like right now when you look at eternal time. And so this is the way the soul works. But a human cannot decide, well, I heard about the walk-ins, I want one. It can't happen like that.
Right.
Because there are people who have suicidal tendencies. And many would think, oh, wow, if I can choose a walk-in, I'll just kill myself. Don't do it, because you cannot choose to get a walk-in soul. It's a warning. They choose you.
Okay.
And from my understanding, there are souls lined up to come onto this planet, this beautiful planet, and help push it forward. So this is why there's so many walking souls. And then, there's soul braiding. There's a lot of different types of phenomena that are going on this planet that humans know nothing of.
I so appreciate that clarification, that first of all, that you don't choose it, you can't choose away from it necessarily either, but you prepare the way. And whether you're going to get a walk-in soul or not, you can prepare the way that you are actually here to help amplify and expand consciousness. And to do that, a lot of what you are saying is the avenue forward. It's the journey forward. It's looking at your thoughts, it's looking at your energy, it's looking at your intentions, and looking for a partner to work with that can help guide you possibly out of the pain. Because to me, often pain is an invitation for expansion, right? It's kind of we whispered, we knocked, so now we're going to scream through your body that something else is possible. Will you give way to the light? Will you give way to what's possible?
Yeah, I think that's the last step when you get pain in the body, because I think that whatever it is that is necessary for your growth has been placed on your path for you, and you've ignored it. I've ignored it, or even for myself, I look back, I ignored the nudges and the situations that got on my path to keep me in the light. I ignored it, and so it became painful. My lessons. This is why it's good, and I try to help people to understand how to expand their consciousness and expand their own awareness, that they can understand their own consciousness and how they feel, see, look, and understand life. Mastering themselves first is the most important thing. Analyzing yourself, checking you out, seeing what you're really about, and being honest with yourself. That's the most difficult thing for a human, to be honest with themselves, to say, okay, I carry this negative idea. I carry this resentment. Now, I've got to let it go. Help me. Ask their higher self. Humans have been programmed to look outside of themselves for all help when the most potent and powerful help is within. Often because of the chatter, thoughts are going to come in a steady stream if we never begin to filter and control and influence our thoughts and sort of keep outside energy from flowing in. We'll just have thoughts coming from everywhere. Everywhere. So now your divine self can't speak to you because you've got all this unnecessary chatter. It's like coming in, and all the old programs. And so therefore they miss out on the teachings. But if they could quiet the chatter, maybe do some silencing of the mind and a little bit of meditation, sitting in the quiet, but the thoughts that come up generally are about themselves. And it's hard for a human to face those thoughts, but we must face them. And I think now during this particular ascension of the planet, all those old things are coming out from third dimensional beings. It's coming up to be seen and to leave you. But a lot of people do not understand, as these old feelings and situations come up into your mind, you can't put the feeling behind it because you'll feel like it's happening right now. Right. You have to monitor your own feelings. When they come up, bless it into the light and say, I don't need you anymore. I bless you into the light. I let you go. Your words go forth and they are powerful and they affect these things.
So much power in all that you say all the time, Linda. I feel like you are here to lead nations, to be honest with you, to catalyze things, to catalyze change. I truly feel blessed to talk to you and to feel the power in your words, to feel your conviction, the truth that you speak with, and the invitation that you're giving so many to walk into the light. And the other piece that tying back to the other things that you said, walk into your light. It's your own, right? This is your being that we're asking you to walk into. It's not just something that's separate from you. It's your truest essence. Please walk into your truest essence. It's the greatest space of ease ever. So I'm going to share your email address so that people can contact you. I'm also going to share the name of your book, but I'd love for you to share it in case. Go ahead. You can show up the picture.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Share it visually too. I love visuals. So,
spiritual phenomena and walk-in souls.
Awesome. So I really do hope that people who still have questions buy your book. I'm going to put the Amazon link so that they can buy it, because there's a lot of information in there, especially if they're wondering if they are a walk-in soul and they've been struggling with some things, or they're just curious about what's actually happening here on Earth, that there's different things that are occurring and they have some curiosity. Is there possibly any further message that you have, your walk-in soul has, that you're channeling today that you feel like everybody needs to know?
Yes, I think that people have to change their thinking about who they are. Humans on this planet have been told that they're not very much and they're somewhat unworthy. And so people are filled with guilt because a lot of things people have done has been considered a sin, but that keeps people anchored in a lack of self-love. They need to know that the Creator created them and gave them everything they needed to navigate throughout this lifetime. But we've all looked outside. We've been directed to look outside of ourselves, and our innate abilities that are God-given have been suppressed. Mm-hmm. We've got to look within and see the God-given systems that are in us. We've got to know this, because this is so important to move from third dimensional thinking, because old third dimensional thinking is not going to work in a fifth dimensional reality. So what's going to happen If people want to stay in that old paradigm, then their good fortune will diminish. Because in fifth dimensional reality, people will live in bliss and they will have all of their needs met. But third dimensional beings will live in a third dimensional reality, and many will leave the planet because this planet's vibration will be too strong, too overwhelming. They'll be ungrounded. People have not been taught how to be whole on the planet. And this is what they need to seek for themselves, and seek it within, because everything, anytime a marvelous, wondrous creator created a bear, and the bear knows when to hibernate. It's like he has a system, a GPS system, an internal system, knows exactly what to do. The salmon, they know exactly when to go upstream. The birds, they know exactly when to fly south. Man has to have something inside. There's no way that man has nothing, but it has been covered. Veils and veils and veils, and we've got to remove them ourselves. And once we begin to ask the questions, our higher selves will come into play, and it will give us our answers. And not only that, it will help us navigate thoroughly throughout our spiritual path.
So would you say the word that describes the fifth dimension would be wholeness? Or are there other words that you would say? It's just a word that really resonated when you said we're being invited back to wholeness.
Well, I would have to use another term, because even in third dimension, it was wholeness for the third dimension.
Okay.
So now in the fifth dimension, there are higher dimensions. There are seventh, eight, there are all types of dimensions. But each one is whole within itself. If they were not whole within themselves, it would be chaos. They would all just mesh together. But there are definitive invisible lines that separate them. So those who are in fifth dimension will find more of their spiritual, I would say, of their spiritual future. Because spirit carries all the power. The soul is the most powerful aspect of mankind. Fifth dimension, you will step into more of your power, more of who you are. You'll be able to create the things that you want and manifest quicker. You can have a lot of joy, a lot of peace, just a lot of the things that vibrate on a higher frequency.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Because there's a lot of people who are like, I don't, third dimension, fifth dimension. So I just wanted to bring it to a level that a lot of people could relate to, that it is a space that maybe many are longing for.
Well, when you talk about third dimensional reality, everything in third dimension must have three dimensions, which is height, width, and depth. That's third dimension. But when you move into fifth dimension, you add to those three dimensions. Consciousness. Consciousness really can be twofold, because it expands who we are. Now we're no longer just operating with the three-dimensional aspects of ourselves. We've tapped on the inner, and we've pulled up like the light and all the things that deal with expanded awareness. We can see things more. We're using our innate abilities. We can have foresight, hindsight, insight, because now we're moving into another place of eternal time, but we still are adhering to linear time.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Like it makes a lot of sense that we're able to use, your words, our innate abilities. I'm going to add with ease, because I believe that people are using them now, or some are. Whereas in the fifth dimension, what you're saying is that is prolific and more ease. It's as though, maybe a lot of people are blinded or barely can see, and then all of a sudden everyone can see. So they're able to use these abilities with total ease. What a luscious place.
And let me just say this. This is why it's so important, Tara. It's very important that humans do all that they can to keep their vibrations high. It's like when Jesus was on the cross and he said, if you raise me up, I will draw all men unto me. So if we raise our vibrations, we draw. We draw. And so that is something that I think that we all should be responsible for, the light workers and those who have higher hopes for this planet. We draw and we'll pull them forward. Those who are worthy, who just have lost their way.
All are invited, as you said, all are invited. So it's so beautiful. I thank you so much for spending some time with me and everyone who's listening. I'm so thankful. A lot of what you spoke about is probably going to start people off on a curiosity journey of discovering more information through you and through a lot of different sources. So I thank you for inspiring. Thank you for speaking powerfully in this world. Thank you for working with Amnesty International and United Nations and just allowing yourself to be used, right? A vessel of this energy and this wisdom. So thank you so much, Linda. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. And also, I like people to know I love talking about these particular ideals. So if you need, you would like to have me to come out to speak to an audience, please do not hesitate, because I love sharing it and it is a part of my duty while I'm here on this planet. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I'm just going to amplify that one more time, because ever since meeting you, I have seen that you're supposed to be speaking in front of crowds. And so please contact Linda in order to speak to people and awaken that part of them that needs to be the light again, that they need to walk into that, and so much more. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Love and light.
And to you.